Thank you for joining us today on Manufacturing Day for what hopefully is going to be a whole series of really informative sessions on everything from developing your teams and people, building your culture, to managing operations and continuous improvement. And since you are in the process track right now, track B, we are going to be talking about process improvement. And I have my guest here, Cameron Searle from Dynapac Rotating. Welcome.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us. And we also have this hour, so we're going to do a half hour with Cameron and then a half hour with Brian Walker over at Hydro Aluminum Extrusion. So we're going to have two awesome presentations of continuous improvement projects they've done to improve their operations. So real quick, I'm going to jump over and show you our sponsors. All right, platinum sponsors, we want to thank these guys. Thank you very much. L3 Marathon, Cambridge, and Fire Toss for helping us out. Our gold sponsors, our silver sponsors, and our bronze sponsors. Thank you very much. And Cameron, I get this the privilege of introducing you here. So Cameron is the VP of Operations over at Dynapac Rotating, and they make big mechanical signs, building automation. If you go to Vegas and you see a moving sign, that's what you guys do, right?
Yes. Yep. We're all over the place.
Awesome. Yeah. Everywhere you go, you see the results of Cameron's work, which is cool. So in addition, he's responsible for the day-to-day operations of the production area of the company, including CNC machining, welding, and fabrication, assembly, purchasing, quality control, shipping, and receiving. So basically everything.
Yeah.
Is what we're saying here. He's responsible for everything. He joined Dynapac in 2011 after graduating from BYU with a Bachelor's of Science in Manufacturing Engineering. I'm an electrical engineer, and I always thought the manufacturing engineers had more fun. So
yeah,
good job on that. He started as an entry-level engineer and has grown in the company to his current position. He is committed to continuous improvement and is always looking for ways to make Dynapac more efficient and customer-friendly. Right on.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us. So we're going to talk about the machine shop setup time reduction project. This was one of the projects that you and your team did as part of a Lean Six Sigma training. So tell me what you guys were doing.
Yeah. So one of the challenges in our business is we don't make a lot of anything. so we're a lot of different setups, a lot of different parts.
But yeah, if a casino or something orders a sign, I imagine that's one big job, and that's the only one you're ever going to make, right?
So we do a lot of custom stuff. We do have set standard products, but even those, when we're making batches of parts that like it might only be 50 parts or 100 parts or 200 parts,
right?
We're not pumping out thousands of anything.
Mm-hmm.
And so something that's important to us is being able to be flexible, be able to do things quickly and move from one job to the next. And then we also are balancing that with our job shop work, where we're doing parts for other customers. And so again, being able to flip from, one part to the next job. So
I feel like that's an issue that a lot of our manufacturers struggle with, because, we go and we try to teach them lean manufacturing, and the response we get a lot of times, well, I don't make thousands of something. Well, the reality is, hardly anybody does anymore these days. Everything's very customized. And so
yeah,
quick changeover is very much part of being a lean manufacturer.
Yes.
All right. I'm going to hand this over to you. You go as fast as you want. But tell us about the project.
Yeah. So I didn't realize you'd have the first slide on there. So that's kind of a repeat, but there's
a nice picture of your family. So this slide's much better.
Yeah. My wife just has 2 family pictures, so I knew she wanted the picture up. So
nice.
So I just thought I'd take 2 minutes and just explain Dynapac a little bit. Dynapac has been around for over 50 years, very long, well-established company, but it's just retained kind of that small business feel. We're sitting about 20 employees right now.
Okay.
And so capabilities wise, we have CNC mills, lathes, sheet metal punch press, bending, welding, hobbing, broaching. And so when we make our parts, we try and do everything in-house that we can. And so our rotator stuff, we're hobbing our own gears, we're cutting our own worms, we're making our own gear cases. And so yeah, we're just trying to be as vertically integrated as we can. So
and just because it's easier to make it yourself than try to figure out how to source it, wait for it, get it exactly right. It's also custom. But
yeah. So yeah, it definitely gives us that control of keeping parts in-house and our specs and what we want.
Nice.
So, And so I was just going to briefly mention kind of the three main markets that Dynapac's in. The namesake is the rotating displays. And so that's what it's done the longest historically. That's what it was doing. And so you'll see that in outdoor signs, store displays, trade shows, and then kind of random stuff that customers dream up.
Yeah.
And so we pride ourselves on being able to make custom units or customize units to whatever customers need. And so big variety of applications, and we'll make everything from just, small little rotators to, rotators that weigh 2,000 pounds and big plate and stuff. So that's industry one, is the rotating displays. The second main industry that we've gotten into in the last decade or so is the chandelier hoist and motion equipment, we'll call it. But we've kind of found this market where commercial buildings will have light fixtures that they want to lower down for cleaning or changing light bulbs or things like that, or they're hard to access, they're over stairs or something. And so we'll put a hoist on it, and then they lower it down, do what they need to do, and raise it back up. And so we're seeing that in churches or high schools or hotels or things like that.
Yeah, big buildings, multiple stories.
Yeah,
You got to have a way to access that light fixture or something frequently.
Yeah, and so rather than having either a really tall ladder or a lift or things like that, they just flip the switch, lower it down, do what they need to do, and then they're able to work on it. And then along with that, we're also getting into other kind of motion equipment in commercial buildings where sometimes they want curtains to open or they have projector screens. And so we've actually paired up with the projector screen company where they're making the screens, but we make the motors that drive them up and down. And so same thing, we're seeing that in churches or buildings where they might have a little presentation or something.
Nice. Very cool.
And then third area is just job shop work, where we're just making parts, and we may not know what they're to, but we make them to whatever the print says.
Because you have extra capacity on your equipment. So you're
we have the machines. Yes. So fill it up. So I was just going to, again, just briefly show some pictures. And so these might be pictures that people recognize. Krispy Kreme, that's downtown New York City that we just did in the last year, I believe. That hot and ready sign on top is what rotates. It's like a 20-foot diameter.
So you're not the big screen, but the big rotating sign up above.
Above it, yeah.
Got it. Okay.
And so again, it's one of those things that people don't realize, but that's a really big rotator right there.
Yeah, that's a big machine.
But the Mickey Mouse at Disney World, I don't know if he's still there anymore, but for years and years that was there, and the globe was rotating and Mickey's standing on top of it. And so you'll see us at things like that. We've done LED boards inside malls. Those are 5,000 pounds roughly LED screens that are hanging over people's heads, and we're rotating it slowly just for advertising.
That's pretty serious.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't have any failures.
Yeah. So we have big weights that we're dealing with. The Atlanta Braves, that was their stadium that they just built a few years back, and that the A rotates. And again, the one on the end is those LED screens that are on Times Square in New York City.
Very cool.
So just some big name things that where people probably don't realize you're looking at Dynapac product. Again, this was a Catholic church we did recently, where they did some chandelier hoists. And so all those chandeliers are now on hoists. The hoists are up in the attic. Again, you never see our stuff. But
you guys are the behind the scenes magic.
Yeah, we're
the makes it all happen. I love it.
Yeah. And then I just threw in a picture of the projector screens. And again, we're up in the attic. You're not seeing it, but we're the magic behind it. And then just some sample machine shop parts that we do. And so gear hobbing and gear broaching is something that we do that not a lot of other companies do. So
very cool.
So a little bit about Dynapac.
Nice. Thanks for sharing it. Now everybody understands at least what you did. So now we understand that why changeover times are so important, because you've got to go from this job to this job, and you got to do that quickly, or you're just burning labor hours.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. And so one of the things when I signed up for the class with the Six Sigma Green Belt class with you guys, I remember you said something to the effect of, pick something where it bothers you when this happens or things like that. And so one of the things that bothered me was when guys come up and say, I can't find this tool or these, I don't know where it is, or I checked 4 spots that it could be and it's not in any of them. And I always went, why are there 4 spots?
Yeah,
you know,
it
it
could be
should-
in any of these 4 spots, and I checked them all.
yeah.
Something,
And I'm like, it
why?
should either be in a machine or it's in the drawer. Like that's where it should be. And so anyway, and part of this is just the curse of being around a long time is just being an old company. You have a long time of things have time to deteriorate or
Yeah.
whatever. And so some of this was just, we just needed to refresh.
Things just
and,
evolve over
yeah,
time
yeah,
when
how
you've
it
been around
evolved.
for a while. Yes.
And so anyways, that was part of how I picked this. Is I was tired of that. I can't find tools, or I know we bought this, but I don't know where it is. And again, that it takes 3 or 4 times of figuring out who put it where. And so yeah, and then that obviously leads to longer setup times as you can't find what you need and things
Yes.
like that. So yeah, I guess
So that's our big frustration there and the problem statement. Then I guess at the bottom right. So how do we measure the success of, fixing that problem? Because it's one thing to have people say, "Well, this bugs me. This is a problem I run into every day." But how do you measure the results here? So let's see, setup times going from 2 hours to 1.5. That's a 25% reduction.
Mhm.
That's going to save a decent amount of money, I imagine, right?
Yeah.
And then a number of jobs completed per week. So is that 25% reduction directly the cause of getting from 2 to 5 jobs done a week?
Yeah, I
Or
mean,
that plus some other things?
that was the goal, is
Yeah.
that with some of the changes we're making, we can be able to get things through faster. And so yeah,
Excellent.
that's the goal. And again, a lot of this is one of the challenges for us on this project was we just vary so much, so we'll do a custom part project where you're only making 10 parts, and then we'll do this batch where we're making 200 parts, and maybe the complexity varies a lot. And so it's difficult to, I don't know, that was one of the challenges, I guess, in gathering data was how to measure it, because we had such a wide variety of parts and complexity. And so for a really complex part, it makes sense that setup time takes a lot longer, whereas this part might only take a couple tools and it's a lot faster.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of one of the things we had to balance. But here's our team here that we had. So our machinists and shop leaders that we had. And so these are just kind of some of the steps that we walked through in this DMake process and the Six Sigma process.
Yeah. So for people that aren't familiar, that the project charter we just showed is part of the defined phase of the 5-step problem solving method we call DMAIC, which goes through defining the problem, measuring the current state of the process, analyzing the root cause of the problem, then implementing improvements, trying to find solutions that make the process better, and then finally landing in control where we lock in any improvements that we made. If you were in the last session with JP, he talked about, just experiment, just trying new things. And that's what this is all about, is identifying who needs to be involved so that we can go experiment and try new ways of doing things. See if we can find a better way.
Yep. And so yeah, so we kind of went through the steps here of who's involved, who has the most influence, who needs to be involved, who does it affect, I guess. So, and so I think one of the risks that we talked about in the class was, I think the main risk for us is just finding the time to do it. And so I actually really liked your guys' idea of you just got to pick a day, just do it and get it done, rather than trying to, work on it an hour a day or something.
Yeah.
And so that's actually eventually what we did, is when we had an idea of what we wanted to do, we just picked a day and had kind of pushed pause on everything, hit it hard, got a bunch done. And
yeah, there really never is a good time to pause production to work on improving production, right? It's the sharpening the saw mentality. It's like, I'm so busy cutting down the tree, I don't have time to stop and sharpen the saw, even though I know that if I sharpened it, my job would be so much easier. I just can't bring myself to stop cutting down the tree, right? It's really, really hard to do that. So, congratulations to you and your team for having the courage to say, okay, we actually are going to pause, go sharpen the saw and get back to it. That takes courage.
Yeah. So it was good. I know, anyways, we had to kind of talk through it, and I know some people were kind of like, you want to do what? But yeah, it worked out well for us. So, and then I guess the other main risk, as always, is sustainability, and when you make improvements, keeping them improved.
Yeah,
and
once
nice.
you made the changes, don't revert back to how you did it before.
Yeah. So, and so I don't know. how much do we want to
Well,
dive
we can
into the
skip
data
over some
here?
things. I mean, we won't have time for everything. So
Yeah, and
um,
so gathering into the data a little bit, we just tried to gather kind of what's slowing down people, what what takes time, why are we taking longer, and so value stream map, kind of figuring out what's our current process, what should it be,
and again,
where are
for
we seeing
people who aren't
time?
familiar, this is just a map of how the process works. Each of those yellow stickies says, here's a step in the process going left to right. And underneath those stickies are the purple ones, which are, I'm assuming you identified problems for that step, right? So
Yeah,
any waste or variation that we see under that step, we capture in a purple sticky note. And this is the starting point for, okay, how are we going to make this process better? And to do that, you have to understand it first.
yeah, yeah. Um, Yeah, so we gathered some data, started tracking jobs a little bit better than we had been on, setup time, well, and how long it actually took to do jobs. Because I'll admit, historically, we probably hadn't been the best at that. We were looking more at overall time for a job, not specifically at how long it took to set up for a job. And so identifying that, helps so that we kind of had a base measurement point to start from. And so that's kind of what we did. Um, so
So it looked like your average back there was about 2.8 hours, but there was a lot
yeah,
of variation. Some setups were a lot longer, some were a little shorter. So you've got both kind of a long average and potentially a lot of variation that could be reduced
yeah,
if
yeah,
you aren't looking in all four locations for that thing you needed, right?
yeah, yep. And so that's exactly it. Is just a lot of variation, kind of, yeah, just depended on what it was, and so yeah, so that's the goal. Is we before we're taking lots of time, or I don't know, it just varied on how much time it took to set up, and so we're trying to tighten that up so we kind of know what to expect, so that you can kind of plan on what it takes to move to the next job.
So that was the end of the measure phase. Then you understood your process. Now we're going into the analyze phase, try to find what is the root cause of that long changeover time.
Yeah, yeah. And so this is a Pareto chart where we kind of went through what we thought was the most common issues, and we actually kind of added to those as we went through and kind of watching people. And so yeah, so the goal here is that you're finding what's the biggest problem with the biggest culprit, trying to eliminate that guy as much as you can, and then move on to some of the other secondary guys, and eliminate those, or at least minimize them as much as we can.
So what was your number one problem you identified on the Pareto chart? It's tough. I can't see it on the screen because it's pretty small here. Hold on, we got to zoom in. Let me read that for you. It says extra time needed to find tooling, followed by can't find the program, and the setup sheet is missing information.
Yeah,
those are our top three.
And that's what I would have guessed. And so yeah, so we kind of had a three-prong thing going here where one, maybe tooling wasn't organized enough or they couldn't find it, and then two, guys weren't documenting things as well as we could have. And so
which meant when you went to do it again the next time, there was no procedure.
Yeah,
way to do
so
it.
we do a lot of repeat parts. Like I said, we have our own standard product where we're repeating them, but we don't repeat them a lot. It might be every 6 months you're doing it, and so it's not like you can just do it from memory, unless you've done it a lot. And so yeah, so setup sheets or programs are obviously really important to try and capture that information. And again, we just found that guys weren't capturing it as well as we could have. And again, I don't want to push blame or throw anyone under the bus. That they were doing the best they thought we could. And so as part of this, we talked about how could we improve that. We looked at our setup sheets and what information do we need to capture. We actually put in a little bit of a personnel change to kind of give a little bit more management over that, to help guys do it and kind of approve and document it better. And so yeah, so those are all kind of, I guess we're jumping to improvement there, but yeah.
Makes sense.
And so yeah, so the fishbone.
I think it's just good for people to see the process you went through here, right? You created a Pareto chart, you used a tick sheet to gather information, and you're doing a fishbone root cause analysis. I mean, people learn these tools or talk about them, but actually doing them. But what was the value of actually like following this process as opposed to just going out and making the changes from your intuition?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is sometimes you think of an idea and you just kind of implement it really quick, but you don't take the time to really analyze what all that affects. And so I think slowing down a little bit and kind of analyzing what actually works, where are things actually located, where are people actually working, helped. And then the putting some numbers behind it. What was the other thing? Because historically, maybe we wouldn't put numbers on it. We would just kind of say, well, obviously that would help, and just you do it.
Yeah, you kind of feel, well, obviously this will be better, but yeah, how much is it better? And is this even our biggest problem that we should be solving, kind of a thing?
Yeah, and so I thought that was kind of the interesting thing on this was it gave you a before and after number that you could actually look at.
Yeah.
So yeah. So 5 whys, kind of walking through why are guys doing what they're doing? Why are we having these issues? And so we use that to make some corrections.
Process capability. So your spec was upper spec limit there was 4. I'm assuming that's 4 hours. So you're saying, look, at no point do we ever want to be over 4 hours, and our target is 2. So it looks like on this, the percent outside of the spec limit is about 25%. So
yeah. And so again, you can just see we kind of had a lot of variation there where things sometimes they went longer than we thought they should, and so a lot of variation. So to dive into improving here, we looked at that value stream map, looked at how could we streamline this, make it a little easier for everybody. Made a plan, and then we just implemented it.
So what were some of the big changes that you came up with that you feel had the most impact on the process?
So, and a lot of this is kind of basic stuff that makes sense, but actually taking the time to organize tooling, where is it located? And so I have a floor plan in here later that I'll show you some pictures.
Oh yeah, do you have pictures? Okay, I'm jumping ahead. Go ahead.
Well, no, I mean,
take us to the pictures then.
I guess we'll go to results.
Let's do it.
And so the main thing was just putting tooling kind of centrally located within the shop. And so we have our machine shop with all our machines, and we put it right smack in the middle, or as central as we could. And so before we had a filing cabinet with setup sheets, and it was kind of at one end of the shop, and then the tooling was at the other end of the shop, and then we had multiple cabinets with tooling, and again, there was kind of all at opposite ends of the shop. And so as you're setting up, it would require you to be kind of back and forth.
Yeah.
And so and again, we'll get to a spaghetti diagram here where it just kind of showed you just kind of had to walk all over. And again, it's just kind of how things evolved over time, where maybe you thought, I don't know, you cleaned up one area, but it was not in the right spot. or we made setup sheets, and that was a great idea, but we put it way over there instead of by the machines where they actually need them. So we'll look at that. But just looking at this guy, you can see after we implemented these changes, our setup times really kind of leveled out. People were able to find parts. I don't know if you could find what you needed. It was right there. And it just reduced all that kind of walking and transit time, that transportation waste. So,
and for those of you who aren't familiar, these are control charts, which show those dots are the performance, the changeover times. The green line in the middle is the average, and then the red lines are the upper and lower control limits, which are showing you how much variation you can expect 99% of the time in this process. And so by shrinking, if you notice how those red lines from before and after have shrunk dramatically, that indicates that the process has a significantly less variation than it did before, which is a huge, a tribute to your team for being able to take that much variation out of the process.
Yeah. So that was the main thing is, you're seeing those come in, and it's just a lot more consistent than I think it was before. So
yeah, you don't have to guess when you're creating the schedule. Is this changeover going to take 1 hour or 6 hours, right? That makes it hard to plan or make promises to your customers, I'd imagine.
Yeah. And so again, here's kind of another chart showing that where we've tightened up that time, and then we've got it at our target or below. So
yeah, I mean, you went from 25% out of spec to 0 essentially, which is awesome.
Yeah,
well done.
So just some pictures here. So before, here in the middle of the shop, we had this fixture shelf, and it's fixtures that aren't used all the time. And so I guess we'd put something that's not used very often right in the middle. And so what we decided to do is move that out of there and put what we do use all the time in the middle, where would be conveniently located. And then again, just kind of, I'm sure no one else's machine shop looks like this, but just, you know how it is, flat spaces collect
Yeah, tables collect
stuff.
stuff. That's just how it is. If there's
Yeah.
a surface, it's going to get something on it.
Yeah. And
Yep.
so just kind of walking through and trying to organize some of this stuff. And so this is probably hard to see, but again, just that's the machine shop and all the equipment we have. And we try to move it, everything centrally. And so pardon my like paint drawings here, but yeah, you can just kind of see walk in from one end to the other, and you had to kind of check multiple spots and a lot of back and forth.
Yeah, it's a
and
little treasure
wasted.
hunt,
Yeah, yep, it was a treasure hunt.
which takes time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the goal now is, so we took those shelves out. So you can see the blue bins are still there. And so we put our setup sheets down there. We moved a bunch of tooling holders down there. We got a couple cabinets down there holding a lot of our tooling. And actually we even put like our drill sharpener down here. And again, just tried to centrally locate as much as we could right there in the center. And so as part of sustaining that, I put these in, but just clear labels, getting things, I feel like that's where it sustains, is it's clearly marked and it's gonna,
Right.
it's
You have to
easy to
make
keep
putting
that
things
way.
back where they go the easiest way to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't have to think about it. And then, oh, I can't find the place right away and I'm in a huge hurry. So I'll set it on this table. Right.
Yeah.
That's what you're trying to avoid.
Yeah. And maybe just to kind of throw out, we did this at a pretty low cost. You can see we used cabinets that we already had. You know, we didn't even buy anything new. We just kind of rearranged what we already have. And so cost wise, this really wasn't a very expensive thing.
Which is a great rule of thumb for anybody doing continuous improvement, that most of the time you can make significant process changes without spending money. You don't have to buy new equipment, right?
Yeah.
Hire more people, get something fancy, just use what you have and find a better way of running it.
Yeah. And so again, this was that picture before that had the bench with all the stuff on it. So we got some shelves there, and it's tooling that's needed for the lathes that are there. And so we kind of organized on those. And again, you could always improve this further, but we at least got it to that point. Got rid of the messy table and so yeah.
And that's the right way to look at it too, right? Say, you know, we went this far, doesn't mean we're done, right? We're never done.
Yeah. I think all these we could go a few more steps, and we'll continue to do that. And again, this is hard to see probably on the thing, but yeah, just again, we're trying to get things centrally located. And this was an example of one of the lathes. You know, you'd go down to that central area, get what you need, and you should have it. So yeah, so kind of what we've been saying is cut down on setup time. It helps everyone. I've heard multiple people say, oh, like I can find tools now. I know where they are.
So the employees are actually happier.
Yeah.
That's a good indication that something's been done well. If people are like, oh, my job's easier.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah.
I think that's one thing too. People learn a lot about lean manufacturing. They hear, well, it's all about getting rid of waste. But, you know, if you study lean, you learn that a big part of it is helping employees' jobs be easier, not overburdening the employees. So that you got that feedback is awesome.
Yeah. And I actually made that point to the team as well, as I was taking the classes, and then I'm kind of reporting back to the team. And I said, I remember we talking about that in the class, and that was something I said to them is, hey, this is all about making life easier for you. I don't think anybody likes taking a long time or not being able to find what you need. That's frustrating. So let's fix it. So, and so yeah, I think that's kind of the basis of it.
Which is a good slide because again, it's about making people's lives easier, but it's also about making the company more money, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, more profitability, better on-time delivery, better customer satisfaction, all helps you retain jobs, grow the business, create more jobs for people. You know,
yeah,
a lot of times people think, well, you know, this shouldn't be about making money. Well, it is, because that money enables us to do good things, and you guys are doing great things.
Yeah.
So $80,000 here, not shabby.
Yeah. So I guess you can see the investment again. The main investment was just time. There was a few kind of cabinet type things we bought, but mostly just time. But the goal is that if we're saving all this time from setting up and shortening that up, that would create us some savings, and that's what we'll see. And so you can see the payback time again was pretty short, and so we saw benefits pretty quickly from it. So
yeah, and that's the argument. when people say, we don't have time to shut down the line and sharpen the saw. Well, if you can get a 4-week payback period out of the improvements you're making, then you can justify shutting down. But
Yeah.
it takes some faith, doesn't it?
Yeah, it did. And so yeah, so I mean, we were able to do it mostly. We did a big thing on one day, and then we kind of did some smaller things after that. But it was the one big day. So
Okay. Well, thank you. Congratulations. Well done.
yeah,
And we're just glad that you guys joined the Lean Six Sigma training and then just got an amazing result. So well done. Okay. That's Cameron. We're going to have Brian Walker join us next here, and he's going to talk. We're going to talk about what he's done at Liberty Safe along those same lines.